So this week we wanted to talk about your miscarriage. I know it's been a few weeks and we want to let you have time to process it, obviously,
I
too.
feel like
But
it's been longer than that, but yeah.
can you share a little bit about like what it was emotionally and also physically?
So this was my second miscarriage. My first miscarriage was before I had my 4 kids, and that was very traumatizing, especially not having any kids yet. And what happened was I opted for a D&C. In hindsight, I wish I had not. It didn't quite take, and so I woke up in a pool of blood
Mm.
and scared out of my mind. My best girlfriend from the time we'd been in 4th grade, she's an OB-GYN, so I called her and I had to go back in, and there was a lot of clotting issues and stuff. And it took like multiple rounds. I had to go in for another DNC. Then they tried to put in, I forget the name of the pill, I'm blanking on it. They tried to put that pill in, like up inside of me, and it just wasn't taking. And it just took it took like a week, and I was in such horrible pain. And I think people don't talk about the physical pain. Yes, of course, there's emotional pain, but the physical pain, they don't talk about it. This time, I knew I wanted to do it naturally. It still hurt, but at least I wasn't scared that I had a surgery and then was still bleeding. It didn't take, had to go back and forth. And so that was the scarier part the first time, and thinking I wasn't going to be able to have children. I was like, that's bullshit. It was painful. And I think we have the highlight, right? So you can always see, like, I did it in real time because I wanted people to see. People don't talk about miscarriages. It's very common. It's at least 25%, at least 1 in 4, and if not more, because a lot of women don't know they're having a miscarriage because they think their period is just late, right? Or they're not always tracking it. So it's more common than people think, and no one talks about it. And no one talks about the physical pain, the emotional pain, and can you go on to have children, and all of that. And can you keep going from there?
Did
So
you feel like you were supported by your village in this? And if so, like, can you convey to people like what were conversations that helped you feel supported and what were some that maybe didn't, so that other people know how to support their community in this? Because I think that is hard for people.
So yes, I felt supported, but it was difficult. My husband is my rock, and my kids knew about it right away. I was in Mexico, and so that was the hard part. And I started spotting. So, and I knew something was off. I literally felt the baby leave my body, and it was such a weird sensation and experience. So my husband dealt with it. He found us a doctor to go to, and got the ultrasound. I literally on FaceTime with my girlfriend, who's an OB-GYN, double checking it, and she sees it and there's no more heart rate. It just stopped. So yeah, so that part was hard. I definitely didn't have regular underwear. I only had thongs, and this is all going to be TMI. Like, wearing a pad with a thong is not the most comfortable, especially when you are bleeding like crazy. So I had a few pads that my nanny had with her. And she's like, they're great. They're organic ones. I was like, okay. So I put them on. My vajayjay is on fire. I was like, oh my gosh, what is going on? I was like, I'm in so much pain. And why is it on fire? And she's like, they're
Mental.
mental. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And then all of these people started writing in, I bet it's the honey pot. I had to return those. And my
Oh my
nanny was
God,
like,
I've accidentally bought those before. They're so strange. They're so
I
strange.
was not a fan. She loves them, but
Some people love that.
people love them. So it was nice. At least I had like 4 organic pads. Then, of course, I ran out. And so my husband had to go to the store. So he takes my kids, our kids, and he FaceTimes me while he's there. And he's like, there's a lot of different ones. Which one do I get? And he's like, I don't know. They all look the same. And I'm thinking, I was like, he doesn't know the difference between like Monistat cream and Vagisil cream from like pads and what. So he's getting confused. So luckily, my 6-year-old and 8-year-old daughters were like, I think this is the one. And they know. And they found the one that was 7th generation brand. And I was surprised that I could get that in Punta Mita. And so I was like, yes, they're right. I'm like sitting there moaning in pain, terrible pain, because I'm very not into taking pain medication or anything like that. And I didn't have all of my homeopathy for pain with me. I had my loom box. I was on my loom box. I had a hot water bottle, but it definitely hurt. So yeah, that part was hard. And then my husband is not good with dealing with pain nor seeing me in pain. So he's like, I can't keep seeing you moan. I can't keep seeing you in pain. He's like, you got to take something. You got to take something. And it was like midnight at that point. And uh, my mother-in-law and father-in-law were with us. And she's like, I only have Tylenol. I was like, I haven't taken Tylenol in I don't know how many years, 10 years, more than that. So I took Tylenol. I took one and he was like, take the other one, take the other one. I don't remember if I took the second one, but that helped so I could actually sleep for a few hours. And then I woke up and it kept going and it took a while. Then we flew back and the sac, I passed one, it was like a hematoma and it was like 6 centimeters. And I'm like documenting this all with my girlfriend through Lorona. She's the only one I'm like sending her pictures of it. And she's like, I love that my entire text thread is all of this. Luckily she can deal with that. And that was painful. And then when I got back, the sac was kind of stuck in the vaginal canal and it took 2 days to move through. That was horribly uncomfortable. It's like having, when you feel like you have a tampon and it's like uncomfortably stuck up there and you need to get it out. I don't know if you've ever felt that. That's what it felt like. And it just felt like so much pressure, but like times 1,000. So it's just very uncomfortable. But luckily it came out and it finally passed. And once that passed, there was like a few more days of light bleeding and then it stopped. I think the important thing that people don't realize with a miscarriage is you lose a ton of blood, right? Mm. So you have to be mindful of your iron levels. And if you don't have reserves, it can take a few months to get back and you just feel exhausted and fatigued. You are out of breath easily. When you stand up, like you can feel like dizzy. And so for the first couple of weeks, I was getting, my blood drawn and monitoring all that. And I dropped from 12.7 all the way down to 10.1, I think. And so it was a big drop for me. And I just felt really crappy. Luckily, 2 weeks later, I bounced back up to 12. And it's because I had iron reserves. And so I did more thorough testing. And I still continued to take iron. So I was taking the Thorne Ferrosorb iron and also the Heart and Soil liver pills. And I tend to be more deficient in iron, at least in the past, just because I take care of everyone else. I'm not as great about taking care of me. I was vegan for a while and, went through that phase in my life and definitely need meat in my diet. But yeah, making sure you take liver pills and iron when you're having a miscarriage and afterwards is so important.
And always check with your doctor. But do you feel like I know we're working on a video about things people say after miscarriage, which can be frankly so stupid. And we don't need to get into all of that now.
Because I'll give you some examples. Like I've had a lot of people write in of like what they experienced and stuff. I think you're not being heard when you just say, oh, well, at least you have 2 other kids, or at least you have 4 other kids. Or you'll have another kid soon, like trying to deflect and not acknowledge just the feeling.
Well, that's why I asked that question. Unfortunately, we live in a world where miscarriage is so prevalent now, and many of us have either experienced it or have friends who are going through it. And sometimes you just don't know the right thing to say. So what is the right thing to say? Like, what did you feel the most comforted by?
I'm here for you. We love you. This sucks. I'm sorry. That's all you need to say. It does suck,
Or not like running away from it, just like kind of checking in regularly.
Yeah. It's the same thing with any kind of traumatic event that anybody goes through. You don't want to like brush it off and say, well, at least you have that. Or it's better that, look at the bright side kind of thing. It's just acknowledging, yeah, that sucks. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. I've heard
You know,
people.
I know if you don't want to talk, I just know I'm here for you. I'm thinking of you. If you want a
Mm.
phone date, if you want a distraction. I called one of my girlfriends up.
You called me. I had the flu, and you called me, and you were like, "Make me laugh, just make me laugh." And I was like, "Okay." I was trying to come up with things to.
Trying. So Emily's trying. And then I called Nikki and I was like, Nikki, I was like, you need to distract me because the pain was so bad. And I was so not wanting to take any pain medication. So Nikki's like sending me like pictures of her dressed in a soccer referee outfit, like in the middle of,
She's the ultimate
nowhere.
soccer.
Ultimate soccer mom. So she was making me laugh. So I had one friend of mine tell me that she was on the table. She was 12 weeks and she was doing the ultrasound with the tech, and the tech goes outside and said she's miscarrying, and she hears it and doesn't know. Like, oh,
I could
that
cry.
like my heart sank when I heard that. I was like, terrible, terrible stories like that. And like feeling alone, I think is the worst part. Feeling like you're the only one. And I think that was the strongest part, that like when I was posting in real time, so many women were saying like, I'm either going through it, or I just went through it, or I had it before. And I always just felt so alone, and I never knew it was going to be so painful. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know the process of it, how long it would be. I had women tell me they were bleeding for, several weeks, if not a month. And that you have to be mindful of. You have to take precautions and make sure to see your doctor, because if you're bleeding too much, like that can take a lot out of you. And so you have to be monitored.
Yeah, a lot of people have brought up to me your quote unquote real timing it thing. And I think it's important to explain like what you were trying to achieve out of that and the shift on how people are talking about miscarriage and grief in motherhood now.
Well, my purpose in sharing it in real time was I remember what I felt the first time I had a miscarriage. I felt very alone. I felt like I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know how hard it would be emotionally, physically. I didn't know what I was going to I didn't know what my options were. I didn't know, passing it naturally was a better option, at least for me, knowing what I'd gone through and speaking to friends and other physicians. And they all said, like, if you can pass it naturally, it's better for your body. Your body naturally will pass it. The first time I was so depressed about it that I said, no, I want a DNC. I don't want it inside of me anymore. Like, I was so upset and not realizing that I needed to have some closure. And I think that was what was so helpful for me when I passed it naturally, having my 2-year-old tell me, which was very weird because we had just told the kids. And I then go down and sit down on a chair, and my 2-year-old walks right up to me, hadn't heard any other conversation, and says, Mommy, I know the baby died, but it'll come back when it's ready.
Mm.
And I was like, I feel like little kids are still connected to the other side. And that just gave me goosebumps. We ended up having a different way of dealing with it with the miscarriage. So that was really helpful to have that connection with all of my girlfriends.
Have you noticed a shift in how this generation talks about miscarriage, grief, and motherhood? And like it is changing.
It is changing. I mean, it was definitely not talked about when my parents' generation, or even my
Or even
grandparents'
your first miscarriage.
even 10 years ago, I feel like no one talked about it.
Yeah.
I spoke to a colleague of mine who's a psychologist also, and she told me that she had one before she had kids. And that was what helped make me feel better. And she was like, a lot of women have miscarriages. I went on to have perfectly healthy, great children. And I think that's what people don't realize and how common it is. And now I think it's more out there. But for me, I wanted to do it in real time because I never knew how painful it was, the physical pain. And so I wanted to show women what to expect.
What is like a little bit of advice for someone who's going through a similar loss?
Take the time to process it. I think when you just glaze over it and try to like ignore it and say, oh, it's fine, whatever, or don't acknowledge how you're feeling about it, it takes a toll eventually on you, and you might break down. At least that's what I felt for me. And this time I allowed myself to take the time to process it. I'm older now, a little bit wiser, but the first time was harder for me, and find people to talk to about it. Will be so surprised how many women have experienced it.
Mm.
So it's very common. And I think just knowing that other women have gone through it, at least for me, with my first one, made me feel better.
It's true.
And this one was easier for me to, I mean, I could talk about it publicly for sure, and it wasn't a problem. It was more, I needed to take the time to process my own feelings about it, and whether or not do we attempt to go for a fifth, which we're still juggling with. Could definitely have our hands full, and it's a lot with 4 kids. And of course, I'm 42, almost 43. So you can definitely do it, but we have a lot of kids and we want to make sure we can handle all of them, right? So
Is there one thing that you wish that you brought with you?
I would have wished I brought 2 pairs of underwear, like, what do you call them? The
Like granny panties?
granny panties, thank you, as well as my pack of homeopathy for pain.
I want to learn more about homeopathy. I'm on the homeopathy.
I know you're on the homeopathy train.
I love it. I love it. I think that's an interesting.
And I would have brought like some turmeric pills also, because that can help with pain. Leafy prana. It's like a ginger turmeric supplement that helps with pain as well. So those are the things I wish I would have had. And organic pads. And now I always put some organic pads in just in case. At least to have it.
Okay. Well, I love you. I'm always
love you. For anybody experiencing a miscarriage or having had experienced a miscarriage or multiple, you are not alone, and definitely seek out your village, a therapist, whoever you can, if you need to talk about it and process your feelings. I'm always happy to answer questions or just hear you and allow you to vent and process what you're feeling too.
It's really nice to know, to have somebody to hold space for you, I think, is the ultimate thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
Love you.
Love you.